expensive to establish that luxury brand pricing. And then for anyone who doesn't want to cough up $2,000 or more, well, your step down from that is going to be a very disappointing experience if you're looking.
That is very disappointing. Now I see why everybody keeps making these videos talking about the 5080 is suck. Don't get it. It's a waste. I see it. I see the performance drop here. I'd rather have a 3090 Ti than the 5080. Now that is crazy. Look at these numbers, bro. A 3080, 65% better. A 5080 is 65% better than a 3080, bro. Think about that. A 3080. So equivalent to that, a 3090 Ti is literally about the same. Yeah, it is about the same as a 4080 Super. It's literally the same card. It's literally just about the same freaking card. So it's not worth upgrade. If you have a 3090 Ti, don't get a 5080. Do not. You'd be wasting your money.
I'm supposed to read this shit. That for life.
There are no bad GPUs. Let me just say that right from the get-go. There's only bad pricing and bad positioning. So if you were heavily anticipating the launch of the RTX 50 series from NVIDIA and the RTX 5090 at $2,000 seemed a bit rich for your blood, you might have had your sights set on the relatively less expensive $1,000 RTX 5080. But if you've been watching the launch reviews that came out today, you might be thinking, whoa, hold on a second. Why do all these reviewers think this GPU sucks? This video is meant to explain the reasoning as simply as possible. The RTX 5080 does not suck as a GPU. It sucks in terms of...
All right, so a lot of people have been coming out with videos. I saw a couple of them saying that the card does suck. Now, I don't know in general what they're referring to, just based off of what I've seen compared to the 5090 compared to the 5080. All I could probably say is maybe the only benefit of having this GPU here, 5080s and under, especially with the price range, is the DLSS4. The DLSS4 is going to allow you to not only use multi-frame generation, it's got all those software features that is going to be able to unlock compared to like a 40 series card. Now the 5090 is a absolute beast though with its teraflops. Now I'm curious to see what's going on with everybody not liking this card, so we're just gonna keep watching.
Pricing, it sucks in terms of positioning, it sucks in terms of the value it offers, especially if you compare it to previous generations, but most importantly, I think it sucks because it represents how NVIDIA is treating PC gamers in 2025, especially considering how well they've been doing in recent years. Taking a trip back in time to September 2014 when the GTX 980 launched, and the performance data here is sourced from the Tech Power Up database. Other than the launch date and the MSRP, which is $550 for the 980, we have comparisons to the card that's 2 generations old in the 80 class, the last gen card in the 80 class, and the last generation flagship. The 80 class card 2 generations before the 980 was actually the 680 because they skipped the 800 series. The 680 was actually a pretty beastly card, but the 980 was still 71% faster. And compared to the last gen 780, it was 38% faster. And versus the 780 Ti, the previous generation flagship, it was 11% faster. In the next generation, the 80 class card was a GTX 1080, which sold for $600 MSRP and launched in May 2016. Versus the 2 gens old 780, the 1080 was a 109% performance boost versus the last.
So he's going back generations, talking about each card from start to finish. Now, I like this. I like this a lot. I used to own a GTX 1080 Ti to be exact. The 1080 Ti was a beast. The 1080 was there, bro. Like back then, 2016, bro, those were the days. I'm telling you, GTX was the wave.
Gen 980, it was 51% faster, and even versus the previous generation flagship 980 Ti, it was a 31% performance increase. So here you can see that anyone who invested in the 10 series, the 1080 in particular, was getting a pretty decent performance bump, and it was only $50 more expensive. A couple years later, in September 2018, the RTX 2080 launched. This was the advent of the R series ray tracing cards, and also NVIDIA increased the MSRP to $700 from $600, much to the chagrin of many reviewers. So some value was lost due to that price increase, but we still had a pretty decent performance bump. Compared to the GTX 980, the 2080 was 110% faster. Compared to the GTX 1080, it was 39% faster. And even compared to the venerable GTX 1080 Ti, it was 9% faster.
9%
A couple years
faster.
after that, in September 2020, we had the debut of the RTX 3080, which also sold for $700, or at least it was supposed to. If you guys remember, the RTX 3080 was actually a great deal for $700, but it rarely sold for that much. But this was also heavily influenced by cryptocurrency mining. Still, compared to the 2 generations old GTX 10...
Heavily, bro, scalpers were going crazy. I have an RTX 3090 Ti. I got this card right when the 40 series dropped, exactly. Now, I didn't get a great price on it. I kind of thought I did. I didn't really. I think it went for $2,000 new. I paid $1,300 or $1,200 for it right after, its last period when the 40 series card dropped. I still love this card. I still use it. Probably not going to upgrade yet. My next card definitely will be a 5090. We'll see. We'll wait and see how that goes. But obviously, you can see the numbers here. 3080, 126% faster than a a 1080 Ti, a 1080 actually, a 2080 Ti is 36% faster. That's pretty good.
We had a 126% performance improvement compared to the RTX 2080. We were 63% faster, and compared to the 2080 Ti, 36% performance gen on gen versus the last gen flagship, and that is good. That's a good representation of a gen on gen performance uplift for a 80 class card versus the last gen flagship. And despite the 20 series only coming in at 9%, this was what had been the standard for quite some time prior to that. On my next line here, I'm adding two cards, the RTX 4080 and the 4080 Super, even though they were separated by a year and a half or so.
All right, here we go. This is what we're talking about here. Now the 4080 series, let him speak. Let's let him speak.
From September 2022 to January 2024. The 4080 Super, in my opinion, is what the 4080 should have been, and that is the card that we should be comparing the 5082 or the 5092 for that matter. That said, I listed them both here so we can compare both. The 4080 came out for $1,200. The 4080 Super was a price reduction down to $1,000 despite being a little bit faster. So versus the 2080, they were about 143 and 147% faster. Versus the RTX 3080, they're about 50% faster. And versus the last gen flagship 3090 Ti, both and 14%.
Now 3090 Ti, this is what I have. I have 3090 Ti. Now compared to that to a 4080 Super, obviously 14% isn't too much. It is a little, but obviously I wouldn't jump to a 40 series card because the 3090 Ti is going to do great for me. Now let's hear what he has to say.
So looking at this chart through 2024, we can see a lot of green. We can see typically over 100% performance increase versus the 2 gens old card, healthy double-digit performance increases versus last generation, and even versus the last gen flagship, we're always in the green, sometimes 10%, sometimes 30% or more. So now let's add the RTX 5080. Eek. I'm using supplemental data here from Hardware Unboxed, the 4K.
All right, this is bad, as you can see. Now 4090 obviously is better than it, but it's only by 17. A 4090 is better than the 5080, but only by 17%. Wow.
Cumulative benchmarks, and we only have a 65% improvement for the 5080 versus the 3080, less than half of what we've typically gotten in previous generations, only an 11% performance increase versus the 4080 Super, and that is being generous. If you check out some other reviews, and I've listed multiple ones in the description down below, it sometimes is less than 10%. And versus the RTX 4090, we're in the red. We're at negative 17%. And if you're looking at that and saying, well, last gen flagship 4090 was sort of a unicorn and it stood on its own and it was that much more expensive because of the increased performance, that is part of NVIDIA's strategy. They want to make the Halo tier card look really good in terms of performance, but also be super expensive to establish that luxury brand pricing. And then for anyone who doesn't want to cough up $2,000 or more, well, your step down from that is going to be a very disappointing experience if you're looking.
That is very disappointing. Now I see why everybody keeps making these videos talking about the 5080 is suck. It don't get it. It's a waste. I see it. I see the performance drop here. I'd rather have a 3090 Ti than a 5080. Now that is crazy. Look at these numbers, bro. A 3080, 65% better. A 5080 is 65% better than a 3080, bro. Think about that. A 3080. So equivalent to that, a 3090 Ti is literally about the same. Yeah, it is about the same as a 4080 Super. It's literally the same card. It's literally just about the same freaking card. So it's not worth upgrade. If you have a 3090 Ti, don't get a 5080. Do not. You'd be wasting your money. You'd be literally wasting your money. You might as well jump to a 5090, or even a 4090. Like, what are we doing?
Looking at the historical context. Speaking of which, I have one more graph to show you here, just showing the progress over time, where we can see pricing has continued to go up, while relative performance has continued to go down, which means anyone who doesn't want to pay that premium tier pricing is going to be punished because of it. And in particular, if you look towards the end of this chart, just in the past, say, 3, 4, 5 years, you can see what a price increase NVIDIA has tacked on to the RTX 80 class card, and I would compare that to how NVIDIA has been doing in that same period of time. Their value as a company has skyrocketed. They're doing quite well. And I know businesses are going to business, and that's just how the world works, and we have to deal with it. But it's frustrating knowing that NVIDIA started as a company for PC gaming, making graphics cards to play video games with, and they've come a long way. They wouldn't have come this far without PC gamers buying their products and supporting them. AI is a whole other animal, and they're doing great over there. They've had much success, but gamers while providing the minimum viable product. And that, after so long, is just disappointing. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you want some link.
Yeah, that is very disappointing. As you guys can see, I don't know what to say, just because I expected the 5080 to be a little bit better. Now, you're buying the software, meaning you're buying all those AI features, the DLSS, the frame gen, all that stuff that comes with the 50 series cards. But, bro, like, honestly, do you actually need DLSS for everything? You guys get what I'm saying. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I'm going to be keeping my 3090 Ti until I'm ready to buy a 5090, because we always go best of the best. But that's pretty much it. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.